In this video, we're talking about increasing your charisma. Hey everyone, I'm Molly from the visibility hacking world, and today I thought I would dive back into the world of authority and influence. And I did a deep dive recently, and the thing that kept popping up, the skill that kept popping up was charisma. And so today we're going to talk about what charisma is, we're going to figure all of this stuff out. First, I'm going to show you how your face can seal the deal. Then we're going to talk about charismatic listening, and finally we'll talk about high impact charisma secrets. Stay tuned. It's absolutely true. Your face can seal the deal when it comes to charisma. We'll talk about body language in another one, but your facial expressions are absolutely vital to that influence, to the signals and the stories that whoever's watching you is receiving in their brain. That means the frame and the understanding they have of who you are, whether it puts their brain into fight or flight or listen, calm, I'm safe mode, all has to do with our facial expressions. Did you know when it comes to like sign language, it's not entirely all about the hand signal or the position or the movement that the hands are making. The same sign and the same movement in the same location can have a completely different meaning by the change of your facial expression. For example, the sign understand. If you have the facial expression like this, it means, yeah, I understand. But if you change that facial expression and instead you change it to be more like this, that means I don't understand. And the same applies when we're looking at nonverbal communication and when we're looking at charismatic engagement on video, for example, or on a stage or in person. Looking at our facial expressions is really, really important. They can show things like surprise and excitement. They can show whether or not you're bored. And we can actually see whether or not people are paying attention to us. So for example, if I look just off of the lens here, I bet you can tell. And the difference is only a couple of millimeters of where my eyes are looking. But our brains are so attuned to figuring out where people's eyeballs are, what their facial expressions are telling them, that really triggers things in our brain. So when we're looking at charismatic authority, when we're looking at trying to raise our charisma in order to influence someone's behavior, influence their decision, move them from a place of not really knowing to purchasing your product, or joining your list, or going out on a date with you. A lot of it has to do with our facial expressions, making sure that they match the tone and intensity of the conversation. So if I were to walk in with a really excited face and really excited facial expressions and tell you that I just lost my homework and I'm going to fail my schooling and then I'm going to lose my job, all of that, it doesn't send the right signal. But instead, when we match our facial expressions, we match that level of intensity to the tone and the intensity of the conversation, that's when we can start to move that influence. Another quick tip about that is to also make sure that we're mirroring. If you ever wonder what level of intensity you should be at, look at the level of intensity that the people around you have. Matching that is the best place to start if you're ever confused. Another part of charisma that I want you guys to think about is not just how we're communicating our message outwards, the tone of our voice, the facial expressions, the body language, that kind of stuff. Half the message is also in the way that we listen, making sure that what we're saying connects to our audience. If we want to influence that behavior, right? We want that conversion from a place of indecision to decision. That is best aided by using words that have actually come out of our people's mouths before, by reflecting. We talked about mirroring, right? Matching that level of intensity. We also want to match the thoughts. Have you ever talked to someone, salespeople do this really well because they've been listening, they've been trained to listen properly. Mediators do this, and kindergarten teachers are fabulous at this as well. But what happens is that when you're talking to them, you actually feel like they're reading your mind. I know the algorithms do this, and I know our social media is perfectly attuned to this, but it's because the algorithm is trained to listen. So these people, these salespeople, these kindergarten teachers and whatnot who are really great at this, what they're doing is they are actively listening. You're like, but always when I'm listening, I'm actively listening. No. There is a difference between hearing, which means that there's noise going into our ear, it's vibrating a part of our ear and it sends a signal up to our brain. That's hearing. Listening, active listening, is when our brains are really, really at work. It's when we're listening deeply to the messaging that's happening, to the tones and inflections, going even deeper to those values and feelings and emotions underneath. What it looks like when we're actively listening is we're not just sitting there going, We're not just doing that. Instead, what we're doing is we're paraphrasing. We're asking for clarity. We're really deeply focused on what's happening, and we are singularly focused on the person that we're talking to. Because once we really listen and we listen to understand, then our messaging can be tied back to those words and those phrases and those worries and those obstacles and those pain points that our people have already showed us. If you haven't already, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell, be notified, let the algorithm feed up our videos to you. We got new videos every week just for you, your small business, helping you level up your influence and help people move from that place of indecision to a place of decision. Oh man, so I told you about my deep dive into influence. Well, the reality is this deep dive into influence has been going on for years. And no matter what, whether I'm talking to people who are hostage negotiators or people who are divorce mediators or people who are high ticket salespeople or people who are leaders of countries and big companies, whatever it is, if you're talking about influence, the biggest tip that runs through all of these professions is the act of storytelling. It's an art, it's a science, it's so important because that triggers a different response in our brains. I know, I used to put people into MRIs, we'd tell them stories, we'd show them pictures, we'd show them movies, we'd do all of that stuff and we'd see what happens in their brains. And I honestly was blown away that when people were just passively watching someone tell them something that happened to them, their brains were not nearly as engaged as when you told them a story. When you brought them along, when they could understand what you were thinking in those moments that helped you decide the action you were going to take and understand the impact of the actions you took and all of that kind of stuff. When you tell that story, when you bring people along for that ride, that is going to change the way that they think about you. They're going to know you better. They're going to begin to like you more. They're going to trust you. And when you get people to that place of trust, when you've matched up by actively listening to what they're talking about, when you've matched that messaging, that intensity, and you show them that you are genuinely interested in them achieving the solution that you can offer, that's when you're going to see that conversion. It's a beautiful moment. And I say once you have that momentum going, why not keep it going? And we do this by having live shows. We do this by creating great content that feeds and serves our communities. And I say, why not join us and get some more of that content for yourself and your business? And I personally invite you to come join us in the visibility hacking world. Head over to visibilityhacking.com. At the very top of the page, there's a button. It says, Become an Official Visibility Hacker. Click that button, join us in the movement. I would love to see you there. We got live shows all the time. We got great content, amazing people in there. So join us, love to see you. Visibilityhacking.com. And in the meantime, check out one of these videos if you haven't already. I will see you in our next one. And as per usual, my friends, remember, I love you. Be excellent to each other. Just go live.